Hi, I'm Sarah. Before I dive into my story, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more of my life's tales. Now let's get into it. Everything changed when I was 15. My dad, the most important person in my life, passed away suddenly. He left me everything in his will, including our family home. But there was a catch. I couldn't legally claim anything until I turned 21. That's when things started going downhill with my mom, Joan. Not long after Dad's funeral, Joan brought Tom into our lives. He moved in so quickly it was like he had always been there, waiting in the wings. And he didn't come alone. He brought his 2 kids from a previous marriage, Mia and Jake. Sarah, this is Tom, and these are his children, Mia and Jake. We're all going to live together now, Joan said one evening as she introduced everyone around our old kitchen table. The room felt smaller with them there, crowded with strangers trying to smile at me. Hi, Sarah, Tom said, offering a hand I didn't feel like shaking. Mia and Jake are excited to have a big sister. Mia, about 13, gave me a timid wave, and Jake, a year younger, just nodded, busy munching on a cookie. I tried to smile back, but it felt like I was wearing a mask. As days turned into weeks, Joan's attention shifted more towards Tom and his kids. It started with small things, like Joan asking me to change my study time so Tom could watch TV in the living room. Sarah, could you maybe study in your room tonight? Tom wants to catch the game, and he likes watching it on the big screen, Joan suggested one evening, not meeting my eyes. Sure, it wasn't a big deal at first, but then it became routine. My presence felt like an inconvenience in my own house. Then came my 16th birthday. Instead of our usual celebration, Joan organized a small, quiet dinner, overshadowed by Tom's big promotion party the following weekend. Sarah, we thought we'd keep it low-key this year, with everything going on, Joan explained, avoiding my gaze as she set the table. The everything seemed to only include Tom's needs. Things escalated when Tom's idea of discipline clashed with the freedom I was used to. Sarah, your mother tells me you were out past curfew last night. Tom confronted me one evening as I entered the kitchen for a glass of water. Yeah, I was studying at a friend's, I replied, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. Well, we need rules to maintain order. Your mom agrees that a stricter curfew is reasonable, Tom asserted, his tone final. The discussions turned into arguments, and my objections were met with cold stares from Joan and disapproving shakes from Tom. I just think it's unfair. Dad never. Sarah, Tom is just trying to help. We're a family now, and you need to start seeing him as part of it. Joan cut me off one night at dinner, her voice sharper than I remembered it ever being toward me. Feeling isolated and sidelined, my home didn't feel like mine anymore. My relationship with Joan suffered the most. It felt like she had chosen Tom and his kids over her own daughter. My once warm and inviting home turned cold and unfamiliar, filled with the constant reminder that I was the odd one out. This story isn't just about a house or an inheritance. It's about finding where you truly belong and standing up for yourself, even if it means standing alone. Stay tuned for how this journey unfolds. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates. The air at home got thicker each day, like a storm was always about to break. Tom's rules multiplied, each one seeming to squeeze a bit more of my space away. The dinner table, once a place of laughter and shared stories, had become a battleground. You're not going out tonight, Sarah. We're having a family game night, and it's important for you to be there, Tom stated as he dealt cards to Mia and Jake. But I've had plans with Sarah for weeks. It's her birthday party, I protested, feeling my frustration bubble up. Family comes first, Sarah. You need to start prioritizing this family over your friends, Joan chimed in, her voice cold and distant. I sat down reluctantly, tossing a quick text to Sarah to apologize. The games felt forced, the laughter hollow. I couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider in my own home. As I turned 17, things worsened. One evening, I came home to find my room rearranged. Tom stood in the doorway, a satisfied look on his face. We needed to move some of your things around to make room for Jake's new desk. He needs a quiet place to study. My room? Why couldn't he use the guest room? I asked, my voice shaking with anger. Sarah, we thought this would be the best solution. Jake feels very comfortable here, Joan explained, not meeting my eyes. But this is my room, my space. I argued, feeling the walls close in on me. It's just a room, Sarah. Don't be so dramatic. Tom scoffed, waving a dismissive hand as he left the room. The tension reached its peak one night when I returned late from a study group. Tom was waiting in the living room, his expression stormy. "It's past midnight, Sarah. This disrespect for our rules can't continue," he said sternly. I was studying, Tom. It's my senior year, and grades matter for college. I shot back, tired of having to defend my every move. "Joan and I have discussed it, and we think it's best if you find another place to stay, at least until you can respect the rules of this house." Tom delivered the final blow coldly, with Joan standing silently beside him. My heart sank. "You're kicking me out just like that?" "It's for the best. You need to learn some responsibility," Joan added, her voice void of the warmth it once held. I packed my bags, the weight of each item sinking deep into my soul. My grandparents, ever the sanctuary, took me in without a second thought. "Sarah, you're always welcome here. Let's focus on your future, away from all this tension," my grandmother said as she helped me settle into their house, a stark contrast to the coldness I'd left behind. Living with my grandparents allowed me to breathe again. They encouraged me, supported my studies, and reminded me of what a loving family truly felt like. I poured my energy into school, determined to build a life that was truly mine, no longer overshadowed by Tom and Joan's oppressive presence. The day I moved in with my grandparents marked the start of something new, something better. Their home was filled with warmth and encouragement, a stark contrast to what I had been enduring. As I settled into this nurturing environment, I threw myself into my studies with renewed vigor. "Grades are just flying off the charts, Sarah. We knew you could do it," my grandfather would say every time I showed him my report card, his eyes twinkling with pride. Living there, I rediscovered parts of myself that had been buried under the stress at Joan and Tom's house. My grandparents nurtured not just my academic ambitions, but also my personal growth. They taught me how to manage finances, how to plan for the future, skills that Joan had overlooked in her rush to replace our family with Tom and his kids. "So, what's the plan after graduation?" my grandmother asked one evening as we sat down with tea, the garden's fresh air filling the room. "I've been thinking a lot about it. I want to go for my master's degree, and well, I want to start by reclaiming Dad's house. It's not just a building to me, it's where all my memories of him are," I confessed, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness at the thought. "You know we'll support you in whatever you need, dear. That house is rightfully yours," she reassured me, gently squeezing my hand. With graduation approaching, I knew it was time to act. I contacted a lawyer, an old friend of my father's, to discuss my situation. "Sarah, since you're turning 21 soon, you have the full legal right to reclaim your father's property as per his will," the lawyer explained over the phone. "It's about time. I can't let Joan and Tom take away what Dad wanted me to have," I responded, determination firming my voice. "Just make sure you're ready for any resistance. It might not be a smooth transition," he cautioned. "Whatever it takes, I'm ready," I assured him, my resolve strengthening. Armed with legal advice and a plan, I began to prepare. I checked the property records, gathered all necessary documents, and even spoke to a real estate agent about the best way to handle the house once it was back in my hands. "Sarah, it's not just about getting the house back. Think about what you want to do with it. Renting it out could be a good income, especially with your plans for grad school," the agent suggested during one of our meetings. "That's exactly my plan. I want to renovate it first, make it mine again," I shared, feeling excited about the future for the first time in a long while. The day before my 21st birthday, I stood outside the house. It looked different, more imposing somehow, but it was still home. The home that my dad had left for me, the home that Joan and Tom had tried to steal under the guise of a happy family. Tomorrow I would step through those doors again, not just as Sarah, the ousted daughter, but as Sarah, the rightful owner. The thought was empowering. I was no longer that scared teenager pushed around and pushed out. I was ready to reclaim not just the house, but my life and my future. "Here's to new beginnings, right?" I muttered to myself, a smile spreading across my face as I turned away, ready for what was to come. The morning Joan and her family were due back from vacation was crisp, charged with anticipation. I had spent the previous 2 weeks overseeing contractors as they updated the house. The new locks were the final touch, a clear sign that things were changing. As their car pulled into the driveway, I stood by the front door, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. The moment Joan, Tom, and the kids stepped out, confusion washed over their faces. "What's going on here? Why can't we get in?" Tom barked, jiggling the locked front door. "You all need to find another place to live. You have 2 weeks to move out," I announced, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. "This is a joke, right?" "Sarah, stop this nonsense and open the door," Joan demanded, her tone mixing anger and disbelief. "It's no joke, Joan. I'm the legal owner of this house, and I've decided it's time for me to take it back. But this is our home. Where are we supposed to go?" Tom stepped forward, his voice rising. "This was never your home by right, Tom. This is my father's house, and he left it to me. You just moved in because Joan let you. You can't just kick us out like we're strangers, Sarah. After everything we've been through as a family." Joan's voice cracked, the facade of a caring mother briefly surfacing. "We were never a family by choice, Joan. You made your decisions, and now I've made mine. Sarah, please think about Mia and Jake. They've grown up here too," Joan pleaded, attempting to tug at any maternal strings that might have remained. "They'll adapt, just like I had to when I was forced out," I countered, my tone softening just a touch. It wasn't their fault, but I couldn't back down. "You're being heartless, Sarah. How could you do this to your own family?" Joan's accusation stung, but I braced myself against the emotional onslaught. "I learned from the best. Remember when you chose Tom over your own daughter? I'm doing what's necessary for my future, just like you did." The words hung heavy between us, and for a moment, Joan seemed lost for words. Tom clenched his fists, his frustration palpable. "We'll see about this. We're not leaving without a fight," Tom finally spat out, glaring at me with open hostility. "You have 2 weeks. Use them wisely to find a new place," I replied, turning to go back inside. The new locks clicked as I closed the door behind me. As I watched them from the window, gathering in the driveway and whispering urgently, a mix of emotions washed over me. There was sadness for what had never truly been, relief that I was finally taking control, and a fiery determination to rebuild my life on my terms. They would no longer dictate my happiness or my home. It was time for me to write my own story. As the 2-week deadline drew near, the tension around the neighborhood was palpable. You could see it in the hurried nods of the neighbors, hear it in the hushed whispers that followed me as I walked by. Some looked at me with respect, a nod to the strength it took to stand up for myself. Others, their eyes tinged with sympathy, clearly sided with Joan and Tom. On a final day, the moving truck pulled up early. I watched from the porch as Joan, Tom, and their kids began loading their belongings. The morning was cool, the sky a steely gray, mirroring the mood. "Sarah, I hope you're happy with yourself," Joan said as she carried a box past where I stood. "I am. This is about my future, Joan. You of all people should understand that," I replied, my voice steady despite the churn of emotions inside. "Destroying others for your own gain? Yes, I suppose I do know something about that," Joan shot back, bitterness lacing her words. "I'm not destroying anyone. I'm reclaiming what's mine. You had every chance to do things differently." As they continued to move their things, Mia approached me, her eyes uncertain, flickering with a mix of resentment and sadness. "This was my home too, Sarah. It's not fair," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know it feels that way, and I'm sorry you're caught in this. But this house is all I have left of my dad. I need to do this for him and for me." Mia nodded slowly, looking back at the house, then at her feet. "I guess I get it. I just wish it didn't have to be this way." "I wish that too," I admitted, feeling a pang of sympathy for her. She was just a kid caught in the crossfire of adult decisions. Tom came out with the last of their suitcases, his face hard, his eyes avoiding mine. "Hope you find what you're looking for, Sarah." "Really?" he said, sarcasm dripping from every word. "I already have," I responded quietly, turning back to the house. As they drove away, the house was empty now, quieter than it had ever been. As I walked through the rooms, each corner, each shadow held a memory of my dad, of my childhood before the world had shifted beneath my feet. It felt like I was seeing it all for the first time again. I spent the day cleaning and rearranging, turning the house back into a home, my home. The walls echoed with the possibility of new beginnings, of dreams yet to be dreamed. The weight of the past few years, the battles fought and won, began to lift. I was free from the toxicity that had once threatened to define my life. As I stood in the backyard looking at the garden that my dad and I had once tended together, I felt a deep sense of closure. "I did it, Dad," I whispered into the wind, a smile breaking through. "We did it." And with that, I turned back toward the house, ready to step into a future that was entirely my own, forged from resilience and the courage to stand my ground. The bitterness and harsh judgments no longer mattered. I was home, and I was free. The story of Sarah reclaiming her life and her home has come to an end. Now I have a question for you all. Was Sarah justified in taking back her house and displacing her mother and Tom? Considering they had made it their home too, what would you have done in her place?